Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Monday. It is March 7th, and welcome. Welcome to HCDVCC Connects, where our goal is to connect systems and community members so that survivors of domestic violence can experience greater access to services and safety through collaborative efforts. Hi, I'm Thesha Jenkins, and I am your host for HCDVCC. And I am glad to see everyone here. Definitely, as you come in, say hi. So that I know that you're here. And because here's the thing, this is an opportunity. We want each of you to engage and interact with us. So definitely as you come in, say hi. And for those who are watching, make sure that you go, I believe it's to facebook.com/StreamYard to give permission so that we can actually show your comments here on the screen. So again, if you'll go to facebook.com//StreamYard and allow StreamYard to show who you are. Hey there, we've got Rebecca who's with us today, and then Sylvia. Hey Sylvia, good to see you. It's been a minute. Glad to have you here. Well, it is the first Monday, and I will be chatting with our executive director, Barbie Brashear. We are having some technical difficulties, so I'm waiting for her to come back. So while I'm waiting for her to come back, I'll just kind of, what I'd like to do is kind of share with you about who HCDVCC is for those of you who may not be familiar, or maybe you watch and you're kind of like, okay, now exactly what do they do? What is it that they do? So the Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council, we are a nonprofit. And here's something to know is that we are not affiliated with the county. I actually had the opportunity to do the first in-person training in over 2 years with the Harris County Sheriff's Office on Friday. I met with there were deputies, 911 operators, and someone came up and they were asking about exactly where we were located in the county. And what I shared with them is that we are not a part of Harris County as far as being employed. We are actually a separate nonprofit, and we serve the greater Houston and surrounding Harris County areas. So we are not affiliated with Harris County. We are a separate nonprofit, and we have been in existence for about 25, 26 years now. And we are based on what's considered a coordinated community response. Coordinated community response. And that's based off of the Duluth model. And the Duluth model is out of Duluth, Minnesota, which I like to say is the clearinghouse for all things domestic violence. This organization, they created this model called a coordinated community response. And the importance of the coordinated community response is recognizing that law enforcement and domestic violence agencies alone cannot address the issue of domestic violence. And whenever I'm doing a training, this is one of the things that we explain about the importance of a coordinated community response. And if this is new information to you and you're watching now, simply put a 1 in the comments, because again, the whole purpose of us doing these episodes is to raise your awareness about the services that we provide and also our amazing community partners. So here is the reality. Did you know that only about 33% of survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault actually report their abuse to law enforcement or even call crisis agencies? So only 33%. That means 67% of individuals who are survivors of domestic violence and or sexual violence, 67% are not reporting. And when I am doing training with law enforcement, that is such an aha moment to them, because even though our legal system is overwhelmed with the crime of domestic violence, the reality is that they're only getting 33%. Only 33%. And to put that into perspective, here's the thing, is that in Houston and Harris County, there's a combined population of about 4.2 million people. And I just got a text from, we're working on our technical issues so that Barbie can join. So I want to keep you updated. So we have a combined community of 4.2 million people. There's about 2.1 million people in Houston proper and 2.1 million people in Harris County. Now, here's the thing, do the math. So we're talking about 4.2 million people, and we know that 33%, only 33% of domestic violence is ever reported, which means 67% is not. So here's the thing, we know that in Texas, 1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence in their lifetime, and approximately, I believe it's 1 in 10 men. So we could say that at any given time in Houston and Harris County combined, that's about over 40% of residents that are experiencing domestic violence. That is huge. That is huge. And so we are missing those 67% of those individuals who are not reporting, and for many reasons. And if you're here live, I'm interested in knowing what you think some of those reasons are. So definitely put in the chat box the reasons that you believe 67% of survivors are not reporting. And we say reporting, they're not calling 911. They are not calling the 1-800-799-SAFE, 67%. So for those of you who are here live, put in the chat box why you believe over 67% of individuals who experience domestic violence are not reporting. So with that in mind, the whole purpose, scared, exactly, Sylvia, they are scared. They are scared of retaliation from the abuser. They are scared that they might not even be believed. And so fear, all of that. And so part of having the coordinated community response, recognizing that most people are not going to call 911. They're not going to participate with law enforcement. They're not calling the shelters. And yes, even our shelters are overwhelmed by those who are calling. However, the reality, again, only the shelters are only getting 33% of the survivors as well. And so what the coordinated community response looks at, hey there, Yumiki, good to see you. What the coordinated community response looks at is that where else do those individuals in our community go? So we know, and so we look at systems. We look at systems, and someone put in the chat box what the word systems means to you. What does the word systems mean? Because that is the whole part of a coordinated community response, is talking about systems. So I'll look here and see who is going to chat in and put what systems are. So when we are talking about systems, we're looking at systems such as we've got the law enforcement, the legal system. I'm going to go ahead and bring Barbie up. Hey, Barbie, go ahead and get situated. We're
sorry.
Kind of, no, it's okay. We're giving a quick overview about our agency and just what a coordinated community response is. Because I think sometimes it's good just to dovetail back. And what I was sharing was that the coordinated community response is based off of the Duluth model. And what we recognize is that only about 33% of survivors of both domestic violence and sexual assault are even reporting to law enforcement, are going to programs. So that means that 67% are not seeking help, or they're not speaking out. And so the whole idea of the coordinated community response and the work that we do as an agency is to find the gaps, and also to make sure that 67% that they have a place where they can speak up, or here's the thing, that they can be recognized. And so we know that law enforcement is one of those systems. Social services is one of those systems, and that's where our domestic violence agencies will come. However, in the chat box, put what other social service agencies exist. And let's see, I'm going to go back here. Jamie, you're saying that a coordinated community response is a collaboration of services and support to help survivors. Yes. And so when we talk about that coordinated community response, we're talking about law enforcement, we're talking about social services. And again, domestic violence agencies, sexual assault programs are part of those social services. But I want you to also put in the chat box what else falls under social services. Then we have the education system. And as we're talking, put everybody who would fall under education. Then we have our faith-based community. That's another system. Then we have our government. So think about all the systems that fall under that. We have the media. We have media. Let's see. I know there's like two or three more that I'm actually missing, but all of these, healthcare. Healthcare is huge. So our goal is to bring all of these people to the table, the judicial system, and bring all of these individuals to the table and to collaborate with them. So we do a lot of work in our judicial system, and we're going to be talking about that's going to be the main focus of today's conversation because of an initiative we have coming up. However, I want you to think about healthcare. What we know is that about 33% of women who come to the emergency room are there because of domestic violence. And so we want to make sure that our healthcare providers are trained. I actually was doing a training last week, and one of the healthcare providers said, there was a person who came into the emergency room and she insisted that a certain thing had happened. And she goes, I sat there and I was thinking, that's not possible. I've been in healthcare for over 20 years and I've never heard it like that. And so finally her partner left the room, and that healthcare provider had an opportunity to have a deeper conversation. And what the woman shared was that there had been an event that had actually brought her to the hospital, and it was not what she initially said when her partner was there with her. So here's the thing, that woman may have never called 911. She may have never called 1-800-799-SAFE, but she showed up and presented in that hospital, which is why it's so important that healthcare providers be aware of how to recognize, respond, and refer those who are in abusive relationships. So that is the bulk of the work that we do, is that we're connecting with our community partners and ensuring that professionals are being trained on how to recognize domestic violence, how to respond to it, and how to refer. And also we learn from our community partners. And so one of the things that we have launched this month in thinking about that coordinated community response model is looking at the intersection of domestic violence and our criminal justice system. So I'm going to shift over to Barbie, and if you will share with our audience today who is live with us and those who will join, the work that is being done and initiated around domestic violence and the intersection of the criminal justice system.
Thanks, Fisha. So I want to start with hi, Jamie. So good to see you here. I want to kind of start with thinking about that statistic that you just talked about, that 67% of people are not accessing a traditional service in some way. And thinking about why, right? Thinking about the why folks don't launch themselves into services. We know that when you pick up the phone and you call 911, you're just looking for immediate response, right? Often that call can land somebody into the middle of a criminal justice system response. So there's a law enforcement response that happens with the 911 call, and there's possibility of a criminal justice interaction, which means it's entered into a court system and the district attorney's office is looking at charges related to that case, related to that incident. Well, one of the things that we've been talking about as an agency in our role as understanding what coordinated community response means is how many people have questions about what the criminal justice system is. What's involved in that? What does that mean? What are all the entities and organizations and steps and all the places? I don't pretend to know them all. It's a huge system in and of itself. And in Harris County, the third largest county, fourth largest city, Houston, in the United States, our criminal justice system is enormous. We have many courts. We have, one of the largest district attorney's offices. They're managing, if you think about HPD, that's getting 40,000 calls per year. Well, that's all of that's HPD, Harris County Sheriff's Office, and all of the others. There's 40,000 potential cases that could flow to a criminal justice response. They don't all do that, but there's potential for it. And each of those cases is a human being, right? It's a person. And what does that person know about the criminal justice system? I don't I don't know. I don't want to pretend to know what somebody knows. I know for myself, I have experienced a family member um, who was murdered, and that launched our whole family into a criminal justice system. And working in the system, I thought I knew, but I didn't really know until I was in the midst of it in that way, right? So one of the things that we wanted to do was create an educational opportunity and bring bring folks that are working in these agencies and programs to talk about what their role in the management or handling or intervention intersection of a domestic violence case looks like. So we're starting with what pretrial services means. There's a jail reentry program through the Harris County Sheriff's Office. And then what does it mean to set a bail or a bond for a domestic violence case? So that will be our first offering at the end of March. So starting this month at the last Thursday of every month, we are inviting different speakers to come just share information. This is meant to be purely educational. Give us information about how what your role with the organization you're involved with, or the agency or the program you're involved with, how does that program touch, manage, or work with a domestic violence case? I hope that makes sense.
And again, please feel free, when it relates to issues surrounding domestic violence, uh, feel free to put there in the chat, the comment section, what maybe your top 2 questions are, because that also will help along the way for this year to guide, some of the questions that we will be hoping to have answered as we move through. So, Barbie, as people are kind of thinking about what's being said and maybe coming up with maybe their top 1 or 2 questions about the criminal justice system as it relates to domestic violence, can you share what led to actually launching this campaign around this?
Yeah, in 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, we did something very similar, but we focused on law enforcement. So we had a series of these same kind of conversations, crucial conversations, and it was centered around law enforcement's intersection with domestic violence cases. Well, since pandemic, we've learned a lot about what's happening in our criminal justice system, right? Cases are backlogged. We're still dealing with the effects of Harvey in our court systems and through right in the district attorney's office and management of all those cases that were already backed up because of Harvey. They got even more backed up because of the pandemic. And realizing that, what does that mean to a case? So somebody who is waiting for a trial or waiting to go to court on their case, what does that mean? So it just led to lots of questions for us. In response, leads to, do we have a full understanding of how the system is supposed to run in the best of times? Right? In the best of times, what does the system look like? And I don't know that any of us had all the answers to all those questions. Some people know pieces of it. So that's where this is really coming from, is trying to map it out and connect the dots and look at all the pieces. Because if I don't understand it, and I'm an advocate working with somebody who is in the midst of it, and I can't explain it, or just have basic information to give some basic understanding, am I doing a disservice? So that's the idea. The other thing is, because many of the components of a criminal justice system response are folks that are elected positions. And so I, as a voter in this county, need to have information to know who I'm voting for and why what they do is important. So it's I think twofold, if that makes sense.
Yes. So we're going to start off. So share with us all the different people that will be coming to the table over the next few months. So you've talked about pre-trial, and definitely each one of them will give a more in-depth assessment of what each part of that criminal justice systems does. But can you provide an overview of what people
Yes.
can expect in the upcoming months?
Yes. We'll be inviting the Harris County District Attorney's Office as well as the Public Defender's Office for one session to talk about their touch or their work with a domestic violence case. We'll be inviting probation and parole services. So that at the back end, right? We'll be inviting the county clerk's office and someone from the judges groups to talk about what happens for case, what's the basic look at a case through a court system lens. What am I missing? I think that's the bulk of our. Let me make sure. Let me look and make sure I think I missed one, Thisha.
Okay. I was trying to find my notes as well. And so definitely, please, if you are there live with us, if you've got thoughts, questions that are coming up, definitely feel free. And because again, that's what this platform is about, is that we want to get as much information out as possible.
So one of the things that we'll be doing is asking folks from each of those places. So March is pretrial services, the Harris County Jail Reentry Services, and then bail and bonding services. And we're asking them to talk to us about how are they involved in a domestic violence case? How does their involvement impact an offender and or a victim? How do they share communication with other agencies or other systems? And then just asking them, what do they think is working well and where do they see gaps? April is probation and parole. May is court administration, the magistrate's office, somebody from felony and misdemeanor courts, and the district clerk's office. July is the district attorney's office and the public defender's office. And then in September, we have the Justice Administration Department, which is a department of the Harris County Commissioner's Court. And then what we hope to do is in October, our last month, just do a summary of everything that we've heard and ask us to be thinking about, based on what we've heard, is there something we should be doing or could be doing to improve or make it more manageable, or basically through the lens of victim safety? How do we improve access to services and safety for survivors? And part of that increasing access to services and safety is also looking at ways to address and provide interventions for those that are using violence in their relationship as well.
Yeah, we actually have on, I think the 21st, if I'm not mistaken, we have a representative she'll be on here on our Facebook Live with the Texas Council on Family Violence. And she will be sharing an overview of the Battering Intervention Prevention Program. So we're definitely looking forward to that. Because I think, you and I have talked about the necessity of making sure that there are also services for the person who is causing the harm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Toby Myers, who's been a mentor to both of us, Thisha, Austin, she taught us very early that it's important to think about draining the swamp, right? If the mosquitoes are causing malaria and there's lots of mosquitoes, you'll never be able to kill all the mosquitoes. The only way to kill all the mosquitoes is drain the swamp that's breeding them, right? So that's true prevention. And, I believe that those who are using violence in their relationship need access to services to help them no longer use violence in their relationship as well. And that continuum of services is vast. It could be battering intervention. It could be cognitive behavioral therapy. It could be other kinds of social service interventions. It could be access to job training so that, they can increase their self-efficacy. So, and but also on that continuum, and why we're bringing this into the criminal justice system is, that ultimate accountability of protective orders and criminal justice system responses, and, the accountability of, if you commit a crime, there is a consequence for that crime.
Exactly. So I'm excited about the upcoming campaign of looking at the intersection between domestic violence and criminal justice, and hopefully you all will have an opportunity to be a part of those conversations. Our plan is to do it via Zoom, and so we will be so that you can register. I don't know what happened.
The world is conspiring against us this morning.
It's okay because we're getting the information out. You will be getting seeing information about how to register for these upcoming deliberate dialogues. So we didn't say that, it's deliberate dialogues about the intersection between domestic violence and the criminal justice system. So stay tuned on all social media platforms that we will be getting that information out, how you can register to actually be in the room virtually as we do these conversations on Zoom. Do you want to add anything else to that, Barbie?
Just that I hope that people will get information that they didn't have before. These will be recorded, so they're going to live on our website, so people can have access to them all the time, which I think is really important. It's hard to find a time where that might meet everybody's schedule, but the great thing is having it live in a place where you can always access it. Yes. So I want folks to be looking out for that. I know we're in the process of reorganizing some things on our website to make it more friendly and easy to use, and the holder of more information. So we hope that our website becomes a tool that folks find helpful as well.
All right. Awesome. Well, it is definitely a Monday. So I want to thank you, Barbie, for taking time out of your day. We've got some really great things going on at HCDVCC, and we'll definitely be sharing more with you. We've got a new program that we're going to be launching, talking about doing prevention and working with males. So we'll share more about that as time goes on. We recently had our fundraiser, and we may have talked about that last week. But if you want to share any thoughts or insights about the fundraiser that we had, it was amazing. Our board of directors and our team did an amazing job.
Absolutely. Well, just thank you for all of the support, for those that came out, those that worked on it, put it together. We recognized our founders of our organization. It was great to have folks that, had a vision way back 25 years, 26 years ago, a long time ago. I don't think anybody knew that it would be what it is today. But the greatest thing that happened that night is we raised about $15,000 That's for the Secret Sisters Fund. Yes. So all the money that was raised that night goes directly to supporting survivors and their needs. This flexible funding account is so important. You never know what somebody's going to need financially that can help improve their safety. You know, we got one woman that just needed car repairs that she could keep her job, and if she kept her job, then she could pay her rent. And when she pays her rent, she's not access. You know, she's not vulnerable to becoming homeless. So just this small investment of $500 or $600 to help this woman fix her car meant a huge thing to her, right? So that's what flexible funding is able to do, is put some dollars into the pockets of those who need it most.
Awesome. So we thank our community so much. So definitely join us again next Monday. March is Women's History Month. Yay!
It is.
And the 22 theme is providing healing, promoting hope. Providing healing, promoting hope. And so next week we will have with us one of our board members who will be sharing. And oh my heavens, I hate when my mind goes completely.
Beverly McPhail, Dr. Beverly McPhail.
Yes. She was with the
our fierce warrior.
Yes. She was with the University of Houston for, wow, probably about maybe 20 years, possibly.
Maybe longer, a long time.
Because I remember I actually met her when I was with another agency, and I had been given the task of contacting U of H to assist in archiving our facts. And that's how I actually met her. So, and I don't even know if she remembers that. I don't know if we actually talked, but that was my contact person. And so she has been a part of the women's movement for a long time. I consider her to be an expert. And so I've invited her just to come and simply share about, the movement and how it has progressed. So you don't want to miss this, because as Barbie says, she is a fierce advocate. She is that person who is going to be there. And not just be there, she gets stuff done. This woman gets stuff done. And again, she's had an amazing history. I want to say that she is very much a part of what happens at the University of Houston Women's Studies. She's been there from the very beginning. So it will be a treat just to hear some words from Dr. McPhail. So please be with us next week for that. And then the week after, again, we will have with us a representative from Texas Council on Family Violence talking about the Battering Intervention Prevention Program. And I want to remind you all that when you are with us, to definitely like, share, and tag. So you may watch this later on today and tag someone because you may say, well, wow, you know what, I have a friend, I have a colleague who really needs to hear this information. And so go ahead and share or tag someone so that we can make sure that everyone who is a part of our community is getting this information so that they can help survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault be able to access the services they need in order to be safe. Again, I did a training in both healthcare and law enforcement last week. And so many times we make the assumption that we all know what resources are available. But overwhelmingly, when I ask at the beginning of a session, what do you want to get out of this? What other professionals are saying, I want to know what resources are available. And I know myself, I don't know every resource that is available. So that is why we bring these episodes every Monday, is to help people to recognize whether you are part of the system or you are a friend or family member of someone who is experiencing domestic violence, is to have resources and to know what are the trends in this issue of domestic violence. So I want to encourage you to like, tag, and share. Earlier, we had information up about our newsletter. Definitely visit our website so that you can stay abreast. We send out a newsletter every Tuesday, and there are opportunities for professional development. There's stories from different advocates from different agencies, and just a great just information that's good for you to know. And also, there's the opportunity that if you wanted to submit a writing that you could as well. We would love to hear from survivors. If you are safe and in a space in your life where you say, you know what, I'd love to share about my experience. And that helps us to grow, whether it's was a positive experience or it was a learning experience. That helps those who are part of the coordinated community response to grow. So just wanted to put that out there. So Barbie, closing thoughts as we get ready to call it a day here.
Thank you. Thank you for showing up for survivors. Thank you for showing up for your community. Thank you, Thesha, for continuing to put information out there. That's my closing thought. Thank you.
All right. Well, we will see you all next Monday. Have an amazing week. Bye-bye.